First contact. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the UES Horizon, humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display that showed the ship's current position relative to the nearest star systems. It had been 3 years since they'd left Earth, venturing further into the unknown than any human before them. "Captain, we're picking up an anomalous signal," reported Lieutenant Raj Patel, his fingers dancing across the communications console. "It's unlike anything we've encountered before." Chen's eyebrows furrowed as she approached Patel's station. "Can you isolate it?" "Working on it, ma'am," Patel replied, his forehead creasing with concentration. After a few moments, a haunting series of chirps and whistles filled the bridge. The crew fell silent, their eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the ship's scanolonguist, leaned in closer to the console. "It's definitely not random noise," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's a pattern here, a rhythm. This could be first contact." Captain Chen took a deep breath, steadying herself. This was the moment they had all been training for, the reason they had embarked on this mission. "Can you determine the source?" Patel nodded, bringing up a star chart on the main view screen. "It's coming from a system about 2 light-years from our current position. The signal is weak, but it's consistent." "What do you think, Dr. Rodriguez?" Chen asked, turning to the linguist. "Can you make any sense of it?" Elena closed her eyes, listening intently to the repeating pattern. After a long moment, she opened them again, her face pale. "Captain, I believe this is a distress call." A hushed murmur swept through the bridge. Chen raised a hand, silencing the crew. "Explain." "The rhythm, the urgency in the tones. It reminds me of ancient Earth distress signals, like SOS in Morse code," Elena explained. "But there's more to it. There's a complexity here that suggests a far more advanced civilization than our own." Chen nodded, her mind racing through the implications. They were explorers, not a rescue team. But they were also representatives of humanity, and she knew in her heart that they couldn't ignore a cry for help, even if it came from an alien species. "Plot a course for the signal's origin," she ordered, and assembled the senior staff in the conference room. "We need to prepare for every possibility." As the UES Horizon changed course, news of the alien signal spread through the ship like wildfire. In the conference room, Captain Chen faced her senior staff, each of them experts in their fields, hand-picked for this mission of exploration. "We're about to venture into a situation we've only theorized about," Chen began. "An alien civilization in distress. We don't know what we'll find, but we need to be prepared for anything. Dr. Rodriguez, what more can you tell us about the signal?" Elena stood, activating a holographic display of the sound waves. "It's incredibly complex. There are layers of information here that we're only beginning to decipher. But one thing is clear: whoever sent this message is in dire need of assistance." Commander Jack Foster, the ship's tactical officer, leaned forward. "Captain, we need to consider the possibility that this could be a trap. We've all read the old sci-fi stories. What if this is a lure to capture an unsuspecting species?" Chen nodded, acknowledging the concern. "It's a valid point, Commander. That's why we're going to approach this with extreme caution. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, what's our status on first contact protocols?" The ship's xenobiologist adjusted her glasses. "We've run countless simulations, Captain, but the truth is, we can't predict how an alien biology might react to our presence. We'll need to be prepared for anything from extreme compatibility to extreme toxicity." "Understood," Chen replied. "I want everyone to review our first contact protocols. We'll approach in stealth mode and gather as much information as we can before making our presence known." As the meeting continued, the crew discussed various scenarios and contingency plans. The excitement was palpable, but so was the tension. They were about to make history, but at what cost? 2 days later, the UES Horizon dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of an unfamiliar star system. The bridge was silent as they took in the sight before them. A massive gas giant dominated the view, its swirling storms a kaleidoscope of colors. But it was one of its moons that drew their attention, a small, rocky world with obvious signs of artificial structures on its surface. Life support detected on the moon's surface, reported Ensign Maria Lopez from the science station. Atmosphere is thin but breathable. Temperature is within human tolerability range. Captain Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the alien world. Any sign of the distress signal's origin? Affirmative, Patel replied. It's coming from a structure near the moon's equator. But Captain, there's something else. I'm detecting multiple ships in orbit around the moon. They don't match the design of the surface structures. Chen's eyes narrowed. Hostile forces. Unknown, but they're maintaining a blockade formation, Foster interjected. If I had to guess, I'd say we've stumbled into the middle of a conflict. The captain took a moment to process this information. They had come to offer aid, but now they faced the possibility of being drawn into an interstellar war. The fate of humanity's first contact with an alien civilization rested on her next decision. Maintain stealth protocols, she ordered. I want a detailed scan of those ships and the surface installations. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with before we make our next move. As the crew sprang into action, Chen couldn't help but feel the weight of history on her shoulders. They had come seeking knowledge and exploration, but now found themselves on the brink of becoming reluctant heroes in an alien conflict. Whatever came next, she knew that humanity's place in the cosmos would never be the same. The next few hours were a flurry of activity as the crew of the UES Horizon gathered every scrap of information they could about the alien moon and its mysterious besiegers. In the ship's lab, Dr. Tanaka pored over atmospheric readings and geological scans, while Dr. Rodriguez worked tirelessly to decipher more of the distress signal. Captain Chen stood in the observation deck, gazing out at the alien world that hung before them. Commander Foster approached, datapad in hand. Captain, we've compiled our initial findings, he reported. The ships in orbit appear to be using technology far beyond our own. Energy readings are off the charts. As for the surface, we've detected approximately 10,000 life signs in the main structure, but they're fading. Chen turned to face her second-in-command, her expression grim. Fading? You mean they're dying? Foster nodded sullenly. Dr. Tanaka believes their life support systems are failing. If we don't act soon, we may be too late. The captain closed her eyes for a moment, weighing their options. When she opened them again, there was a fierce determination in her gaze. We didn't come all this way to watch an entire civilization die. Assemble a rescue team. We're going down there. With all due respect, Captain, that's incredibly risky, Foster argued. We don't know anything about these aliens or their conflict. We could be walking into a war zone. I'm aware of the risks, Commander, Chen replied firmly. But sometimes being human means taking those risks to help others, even if they're not our own species. Prepare a stealth shuttle. We'll slip past the blockade and make contact with the aliens on the surface. As Foster left to carry out her orders, Chen turned back to the viewport. In the reflection of the glass, she saw not just herself, but the hopes and dreams of all humanity. They stood on the precipice of a new era, and she was determined to ensure that humanity's first step into the galactic community would be one of compassion and courage. Little did she know that this decision would set in motion a chain of events that would not only change the fate of the aliens they sought to rescue, but redefine humanity's place in the cosmos forever. The ship's chronobiologist adjusted her glasses. We've run countless simulations, Captain, but the truth is, we can't predict how an alien biology might react to our presence. We'll need to be prepared for anything from extreme compatibility to extreme toxicity. Understood, Shen replied. I want everyone to review our first contact protocols. We'll approach in stealth mode and gather as much information as we can before making our presence known. As the meeting continued, the crew discussed various scenarios and contingency plans. The excitement was palpable, but so was the tension. They were about to make history, but at what cost? 2 days later, the UES Horizon dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of an unfamiliar star system. The bridge was silent as they took in the sight before them. A massive gas giant dominated the view, its swirling storms a kaleidoscope of colors. But it was one of its moons that drew their attention, a small, rocky world with obvious signs of artificial structures on its surface. Life support detected on the moon's surface, reported Ensign Maria Lopez from the science station. Atmosphere is thin but breathable. Temperature is within human tolerability range. Captain Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the alien world. Any sign of the distress signal's origin? Affirmative, Pato replied. It's coming from a structure near the moon's equator. But Captain, there's something else. I'm detecting multiple ships in orbit around the moon. They don't match the design of the surface structures. Chen's eyes narrowed. Hostile forces. Unknown, but they're maintaining a blockade formation, Foster interjected. If I had to guess, I'd say we've stumbled into the middle of a conflict. The captain took a moment to process this information. They had come to offer aid, but now they faced the possibility of being drawn into an interstellar war. The fate of humanity's first contact with an alien civilization rested on her next decision. Maintain stealth protocols, she ordered. I want a detailed scan of those ships and the surface installations. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with before we make our next move. As the crew sprang into action, Jen couldn't help but feel the weight of history on her shoulders. They had come seeking knowledge and exploration, but now found themselves on the brink of becoming reluctant heroes in an alien conflict. Whatever came next, she knew that humanity's place in the cosmos would never be the same. The next few hours were a flurry of activity as the crew of the UES Horizon gathered every scrap of information they could about the alien moon and its mysterious besiegers. In the ship's lab, Dr. Tanaka pored over atmospheric readings and geological scans, while Dr. Rodriguez worked tirelessly to decipher more of the distress signal. Captain Chen stood in the observation deck, gazing out at the alien world that hung before them. Commander Foster approached, datapad in hand. Captain, we've compiled our initial findings, he reported. The ships in orbit appear to be using technology far beyond our own. Energy readings are off the charts. As for the surface, we've detected approximately 10,000 life signs in the main structure, but they're fading. Chen turned to face her second-in-command, her expression grim. Fading? You mean they're dying? Foster nodded sullenly. Dr. Tanaka believes their life support systems are failing. If we don't act soon, we may be too late. The captain closed her eyes for a moment, weighing their options. When she opened them again, there was a fierce determination in her gaze. We didn't come all this way to watch an entire civilization die. Assemble a rescue team. We're going down there. With all due respect, Captain, that's incredibly risky, Foster argued. We don't know anything about these aliens or their conflict. We could be walking into a war zone. I'm aware of the risks, Commander, Chen replied firmly. But sometimes, being human means taking those risks to help others, even if they're not our own species. Prepare a stealth shuttle. We'll slip past the blockade and make contact with the aliens on the surface. As Foster left to carry out her orders, Chen turned back to the viewport. In the reflection of the glass, she saw not just herself, but the hopes and dreams of all humanity. They stood on the precipice of a new era, and she was determined to ensure that humanity's first step into the galactic community would be one of compassion and courage. Little did she know that this decision would set in motion a chain of events that would not only change the fate of the aliens they sought to rescue, but redefine humanity's place in the cosmos forever. As the stealth shuttle detached from the UES Horizon, Captain Chen felt a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. Beside her sat Dr. Rodriguez, Dr. Tanaka, and Lieutenant Zora Kori, the team's security expert. The shuttle's cloaking technology, Earth's most closely guarded secret, hummed softly as they descended towards the alien moon. Remember, Chen addressed her team, Our primary objective is to establish peaceful contact and offer assistance. We're not here to take sides in their conflict. The shuttle weaved through the debris field surrounding the moon, remnants of what must have been a fierce battle. As they approached the surface, the true scale of the alien structure became apparent. It was a sprawling complex of crystalline spires and metallic domes, unlike anything they had ever seen. Life signs are concentrated in the central spire, Dr. Tanaka reported, her eyes fixed on her scanner. But they're growing weaker by the minute. Chen nodded grimly. Take us in, but be ready for anything. As they touched down on a small landing pad near the base of the central spire, the team donned their exosuits. The alien atmosphere, while breathable, was thin and cold. They stepped out onto the surface, the low gravity making their movements feel oddly buoyant. Look at this architecture, Dr. Rodriguez marveled, her voice filled with awe. The complexity, the symmetry, it's beautiful. Stay focused, Lieutenant Corey reminded them, her hand resting on her weapon. We don't know what kind of reception we'll get. They approached a large, ornate door at the base of the spire. Strange symbols pulsed with a faint light along its frame. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, studying the markings intently. I think this is an entry request system, she said, her fingers hovering over the symbols. Based on the patterns in the distress signal, I believe I can. Before she could finish, the door slid open with a soft hiss. The team exchanged glances, then cautiously stepped inside. The interior was a marvel of alien engineering. Bioluminescent patterns flowed along the walls, providing a soft, ethereal light. The air was thick with a sweet, unfamiliar scent. As they moved deeper into the structure, they began to encounter signs of recent conflict, scorch marks on the walls, debris scattered across the floor. Suddenly, a figure emerged from around a corner. The alien was tall and slender, with iridescent skin and large, multifaceted eyes. It froze at the sight of the human team, its body trembling slightly. Captain Chen slowly raised her hands in a gesture of peace. We're here to help, she said softly, nodding to Dr. Rodriguez. The xenolinguist stepped forward, attempting to reproduce the sounds they had heard in the distress signal. The alien's eyes widened, and it emitted a series of rapid clicks and whistles. I think it's asking if we're the rescue team, Dr. Rodriguez translated hesitantly. Chen nodded. Yes, we're here to help. Can you take us to your leaders? The alien seemed to understand the intent, if not the exact words. It gestured for them to follow and led them deeper into the complex. As they walked, they passed more aliens, some injured, others huddled in groups, all watching the humans with a mixture of fear and hope. Finally, they reached a large chamber that appeared to be a command center. Here, a group of aliens was gathered around a holographic display, engaged in what seemed to be a heated debate. Their conversation fell silent as the humans entered. One alien, adorned with intricate markings that suggested a position of authority, approached them. It studied the humans intently before emitting a complex series of sounds. Dr. Rodriguez listened carefully, her brow furrowed in concentration. Captain, she said after a moment, I believe they're asking why we've come. They don't understand why an unknown species would respond to their distress call. Captain Chen stepped forward, her posture straight and confident. Tell them we're explorers from a planet called Earth. We intercepted their distress signal and came to offer our assistance. Ask them what's happening here and how we can help. As Dr. Rodriguez began to translate, conveying the message as best she could, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The aliens' postures relaxed slightly, and there was a ripple of what sounded like hopeful murmurs. The lead alien responded, its voice urgent and pleading. Dr. Rodriguez listened intently, her eyes widening as she pieced together the alien's story. Captain, she said, her voice trembling slightly, they're calling themselves the Zorathi. They say they're a peaceful species dedicated to scientific exploration, but they've been attacked by a race known as the Krelax, warlike conquerors who seek to enslave other species. Chen's expression hardened, and the ships in orbit. Krelax vessels, Rodriguez confirmed. They've laid siege to this outpost, cutting off supplies and bombarding the surface. The Zorathi's defenses are failing. They didn't expect anyone to answer their call. They thought they were going to die here. Their human advantage. The corridors of the Zorathi complex echoed with the sounds of frantic activity as humans and aliens worked side by side to fortify their defenses. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the makeshift command center, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Krelax ships circling overhead like hungry predators. "Status report," she barked, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. Dr. Yuki Tanaka looked up from her console, her face etched with a mixture of excitement and worry. "Captain, we've managed to integrate some of our shielding technology with the Zorathi systems. It's not perfect, but it should buy us some time." Chen nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. Human ingenuity was already proving its worth in this alien conflict. "Good work, Doctor. What about our offensive capabilities?" Lieutenant Zara Kori stepped forward, her usual stoic expression betraying a hint of frustration. "That's where we're hitting a snag, Captain. The Zorathi weapons are, well, they're not exactly what we're used to." Before Chen could respond, Zilar, the Zorathi leader, approached. Dr. Elena Rodriguez quickly moved to his side, ready to translate. "Your weapons," Zilar began, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the light of the holograms. "They are designed to destroy, to kill. This is not our way. We seek to understand, to change minds, not to end lives." As Rodriguez translated, Chen felt a mix of admiration and frustration. The Zorathi's commitment to peace was admirable, but it had also left them vulnerable to the Krelax aggression. "I understand your position, Zilar," Chen replied carefully, "but sometimes, to protect peace, we must be prepared to fight." Zilar's iridescent skin rippled in what Chen had come to recognize as a sign of distress. Perhaps the alien leader conceded, but we cannot abandon our principles, even in the face of extinction. Our empathy weapon is our most powerful tool, but it requires great precision and a willing mind. Chen's brow furrowed as Rodriguez translated. "A willing mind? What does that mean?" Dr. Tanaka, who had been listening intently, suddenly perked up. "Captain, I think I understand. The Zorathi empathy weapon doesn't just broadcast emotions. It creates a two-way link. The user has to be willing to open their mind, to share their own emotions and experiences." A heavy silence fell over the command center as the implications sank in. Using such a weapon would require not just bravery, but a level of emotional vulnerability that few soldiers would be comfortable with. It was Commander Jack Foster who broke the silence, his voice coming through the comm system from the UES horizon in orbit. "Captain, we're picking up movement from the Krelax fleet. They're preparing for another assault." Chen's mind raced. They needed a plan, and fast. That's when an idea struck her. A crazy, potentially brilliant idea that could only have been born from this unique fusion of human and Zorathi perspectives. "Zilar," she said, turning to the alien leader, "you said your empathy weapon requires a willing mind. What if we could provide that? What if we could show the Krelax not just peace and understanding, but the full range of human emotion? Our determination, our courage, our capacity for both love and righteous anger." Zilar's eyes widened, the facets reflecting a mix of surprise and intrigue. It could work, he clicked and whistled, Rodriguez translating rapidly. "But it would require a human to interface directly with our technology. The mental strain would be significant." Chen nodded grimly. "I understand, and I volunteer." A chorus of protests erupted from her crew, but Chen held up a hand to silence them. "This is first contact," she said firmly. "Humanity's first steps into a larger galaxy. We have a chance here not just to save the Zorathi, but to show the Krelax, to show the entire galaxy, what humanity stands for. I can't ask anyone else to take this risk." As her words sank in, a new sense of purpose seemed to fill the room. Humans and Zorathi alike looked at Chen with a mixture of awe and respect. "Very well," Zilla said solemnly. "We will prepare the interface. But Captain, you must understand, this connection goes both ways. You will feel the Krelax's emotions as well. Their anger, their hatred. It will not be easy to bear." Chen squared her shoulders, her jaw set with determination. "I understand. Let's do this." As the Zorathi scientists worked to adapt their empathy weapon for human use, Chen took a moment to address her crew. The Great Escape. The command center of the Zorathi complex hummed with a nervous energy as Captain Sarah Chen prepared to face the Krelax leaders. The events of the past few hours had been nothing short of miraculous, turning a near-certain defeat into an unprecedented opportunity for peace. Yet, as Chen straightened her uniform and took a deep breath, she knew that the hardest part was yet to come. "Communications link established, Captain," Lieutenant Pertol reported from his makeshift station. "The Krelax Supreme Commander is standing by." Chen nodded, her face a mask of calm determination. On screen, the holographic display flickered to life, revealing a being that seemed to embody the very concept of a warrior race. The Krelax commander was massive, with a thick, armored exoskeleton and multiple limbs that ended in what appeared to be natural weapons. Yet, its eyes, all 6 of them, held a new uncertainty that hadn't been there before. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Horizon," Chen began, her voice steady. "On behalf of humanity and our Zorathi allies, I welcome this opportunity for peaceful dialogue." The Krelax commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been agitation or perhaps nervousness. When it spoke, its voice was a low rumble that seemed to vibrate the very air. "I am Supreme Commander Vexkar of the Krelax Dominion," it responded. "Your empathic assault has given us much to consider, human. We have never encountered a species capable of such connection." As Dr. Rodriguez translated, Chen could sense the conflicting emotions in the Krelax leader's voice. The empathic link had shaken the very foundations of their warlike culture. "It was not an assault, Commander Vexkar," Chen replied carefully. "It was an invitation to understand one another, an opportunity to find a path that doesn't lead to destruction." Vexkar's multiple eyes blinked in rapid succession. "You showed us possibilities we had not considered, ways of existing that we had long forgotten. It is unsettling." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Change often is, Commander, but it also brings opportunity. We have a chance here to forge a new future, not just for our 3 species, but for this entire sector of the galaxy." As Chen spoke, laying out a vision of cooperation and mutual benefit, she could see the Krelax leader's posture slowly changing. The aggressive stance softened, the natural weapons relaxed. But just as it seemed they were making progress, alarms blared throughout the complex. Dr. Tanaka's voice cut through the chaos. "Captain, we have a problem. The empathic link. It's destabilized the Krelax fleet's command structure." Chen's eyes widened in realization. They had opened the Krelax minds to new ideas, new ways of thinking. But in doing so, they had also shattered the rigid hierarchy that held their war fleet together. On the holographic display, Vexkar rolled in a mixture of confusion and anger. "What treachery is this, human? Our ships, they're breaking formation. Some are powering weapons." "'Tis not treachery, Commander," Chen said quickly, her mind racing. "Your people are experiencing freedom of thought, perhaps for the first time. Some may be embracing it, others rejecting it. We need to work together to prevent this situation from spiraling out of control." But even as she spoke, Chen could see that events were moving too quickly. On the tactical display, Krelax ships were taking up attack positions, some aimed at the Zorathi moon, others at their own fleet mates. "Captain," Commander Foster's voice came urgently over the comm. "The Horizon sensors are picking up massive energy buildups in multiple Krelax ships. If they open fire, the crossfire will destroy everything in the system, including us. Chen made a split-second decision. Commander Foster, power up our engines. Prepare for immediate evacuation of the Zorathi complex. Zilla, she turned to the Zorathi leader. We need to get your people out of here now. Zilla's iridescent skin pulsed with alarm. But our home, our research, generations of work, galactic repercussions. The UES Horizon drifted in high orbit around Earth, its hull bearing the scars of its recent ordeal. In the ship's main conference room, Captain Sarah Chen stood before a panel of grim-faced admirals and politicians, their expressions a mixture of awe and concern as they digested her report. Let me get this straight, Captain, Admiral Yoshida said, leaning forward in his chair. You not only made first contact with 2 alien species, but you also intervened in an interstellar war and evacuated an entire alien civilization. Chen nodded, her posture rigid. That's correct, Admiral. Given the circumstances, I believed it was the only ethical course of action. A murmur rippled through the assembled officials. Some looked impressed, others worried. Senator Kamala Patel spoke up next, her voice sharp. While your actions may have been admirable from a humanitarian perspective, Captain, have you considered the diplomatic ramifications? We've essentially declared our presence to the galaxy by taking sides in a conflict we'd barely understand. Before Chen could respond, a soft chime interrupted the proceedings. A holographic display flickered to life in the center of the room, showing a familiar face, or rather, a familiar arrangement of multifaceted eyes and iridescent skin. Forgive the interruption, Zilla said, his translator conveying a tone of urgency. But we've just received a transmission from deep space. I believe you'll want to see this. With a nod from Admiral Yoshida, Zilla patched the transmission through. The hologram shifted, revealing the imposing form of Supreme Commander Vexkar of the Kralax Dominion. Greetings, humans, Vexkar rumbled, its multiple limbs twitching with what might have been agitation. Your actions have set in motion events that threaten the very fabric of our society. The empathic assault you unleash has caused widespread unrest throughout the Dominion. Many of our warrior castes are questioning centuries of tradition and hierarchy. Chen stepped forward, her voice steady. Commander Vexkar, it was not our intention to destabilize your society. We acted only to preserve life and open a dialogue. Vexkar's mandibles clicked in what might have been frustration. Intentions matter little in the face of consequences, Captain Chen. A significant faction of my people now clamor for peaceful coexistence and cultural exchange. Others see this as weakness and push for immediate retaliation against your world. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, in its first venture beyond the solar system, had inadvertently become the catalyst for a potential civil war in a vast alien empire. Admiral Yoshida cleared his throat. Supreme Commander, what are you proposing? Vexkar's multiple eyes blinked in rapid succession. We find ourselves at a crossroads. The old ways of conquest and subjugation are being challenged. Some see the humans' actions as a sign that cooperation might be advantageous. I come seeking not retribution, but guidance. How do we transition from a society built on war to one that embraces peace? The human officials exchanged shocked glances. This was far beyond anything they had anticipated. Senator Patel was the first to recover. Commander Vexkar, this is an unprecedented situation. We would need time to consult with our full government and with our Zorathi allies. Time, Vexkar rumbled, is a luxury we may not have. Already, battle fleets gather on the fringes of your system, commanded by those who see humanity as a threat to be eliminated. I'm holding them back for now, but my influence wanes with each passing moment. Captain Chen stepped forward once more, her mind racing. Commander, perhaps we can offer a gesture of good faith. We have among us Zorathi scientists and diplomats who have experience in peaceful coexistence. With their permission, we could arrange cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations. Show your people the benefits of cooperation firsthand. Zilla's hologram nodded enthusiastically. We would be honored to assist in this transition. Our people owe humanity a great debt, and if we can help forge peace with the Krelax, it would be a worthy repayment. A new era. 5 years had passed since the fateful day when humanity averted an interstellar war and changed the course of galactic history. The Sol system, once an isolated outpost of human civilization, had become a bustling hub of interstellar activity. Captain Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, stood at the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive space habitat orbiting Jupiter. The station was a marvel of collaborative engineering, combining human ingenuity, Zorathi bioarchitecture, and Krelax defensive systems. It served as the headquarters for the newly formed Galactic Cooperative, a union of the 3 species dedicated to peaceful exploration and mutual advancement. As Chen watched shuttles and ships of various designs fitting between the station and the nearby shipyards, she couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. The integration of the 3 species hadn't been without its challenges, but the progress they'd made was nothing short of miraculous. Admiring the view, Admiral. A familiar voice chirped behind her. Chen turned to see Zilla, the Zorathi leader who had become one of her closest friends and advisors. Just reflecting on how much has changed, Chen replied with a smile. Sometimes I still can't believe we pulled it off. Zilla's iridescent skin rippled with what Chen had come to recognize as amusement. Your species has a remarkable capacity for adaptation. I doubt any other race could have navigated these changes so successfully. Before Chen could respond, her comm unit chimed. Admiral, Lieutenant Patel's voice came through. The Krelax delegation has arrived for the summit. Supreme Commander Vexkar is requesting to speak with you privately before the formal proceedings begin. Understood. I'll meet him in my office, Chen replied. She turned to Zilla. Care to join us? I have a feeling this conversation will concern you as well. As they made their way through the station, Chen and Zilla passed by scenes that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Human scientists worked side by side with Zorathi researchers, their combined knowledge pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Krelax warriors, once feared as ruthless conquerors, now served as peacekeepers and trainers for a joint defense force. In one of the station's many gardens, a group of children, human, Zorathi, and Krelax, played together, their laughter a testament to the new era of understanding they had ushered in. Chen's office reflected the collaborative spirit of the station. Zorathi plants that doubled as air purifiers lined the walls, while the Krelax holographic display dominated one corner, showing real-time data from across the Cooperative's territory. Supreme Commander Vexkar was waiting for them, its massive form somehow managing to look both imposing and comfortable in the specially designed chair. Admiral Chen, Councillor Zilla, it rumbled in greeting. Thank you for meeting with me. Of course, Commander, Chen replied, taking her seat. What's on your mind? Vexkar's multiple eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign Chen had learned indicated deep thought or concern. I've received reports from our long-range scout ships. They've detected unusual activity in the Andromeda Galaxy. It appears we may not be alone in the universe. The implications of Vexkar's statement hung heavy in the air. Chen and Zilla exchanged glances, both recognizing the magnitude of this revelation. What kind of activity are we talking about? Chen asked, her mind already racing with possibilities. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before, Vexkar explained, and structures that dwarf even our largest space stations. Whatever civilization exists there, it is far more advanced than our own. Zilla's skin pulsed with a mix of excitement and apprehension. This could change everything. Are they a threat? Potential allies? Do they even know we exist? All excellent questions, Chen mused, and ones we'll need to address quickly. If there's a more advanced civilization out there, we need to be prepared for any possibility. As the 3 leaders discussed the implications of this discovery, Chen couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. Once again, they stood on the brink of a new era, facing the unknown together.